But we're not going to talk about that. Instead, what we're going to talk about is something that I'm a little bit better at, and that is tipping these games. I know I teased a little bit earlier that I had something in store, and that I still know for a fact that you guys will not be disappointed with this one. Actually, you might not even be surprised considering my track record. So we're going to get into things here because we got starting us off at the GABA. We got the Brisbane Lions. We got the Collingwood Magpies, both coming off of losses. And we got 64% of tippers going with the Lions. I'm a little bit surprised by these percentages, but what do you think? Who's going to start us off this round with a win?
I'm going to go with the Brisbane Lions on this one. I just think I like Collingwood, but Collingwood, that loss to West Coast damaged me a little bit to him. And the fact they lose Jamie Elliott to an AC joint injury where, well, it's a bad loss, but it's not a bad loss because I think West Coast is a team, and I think they're going to go from the team everybody expected to lose every game to a team that's now starting to be like really, really good because they're getting quality players back each and every week.
So they're going from a underrated teams somehow.
Well, they're going to go from what everybody said, the waffle team that everybody can beat, to the team that the normal West Coast Eagles team where you go, you're scared to play them because they have the opportunity and the ability to beat you. I'm going to go Brisbane Lions on this one just because, again, they're at home at the GABA. They play the GABA really well. Collingwood travels to the GABA actually surprisingly well, but I don't like some of their outs. I think some of their outs hurt them. Like I said, Jamie Elliott being out, but that means the big Mason Cox comes back in. So we'll have to see.
Yes, it does.
As you one time quoted, the greatest footy player ever to live.
I still stand by that 100%.
But yeah, I've got Brizzy in this one. I think Brizzy's just a little bit too good. So many talented things and just a few injuries in the worst possible spots for Collingwood. So I'm going to have the Lions in this one.
It's never a real AFL show unless we bring up the name of the legend that is Mason Cox, the baddest man on the planet, the one with the longest stride and the highest leap. He really should be a giant. Man, I really wish that make me so happy. But of course, we all can't have nice things all the time. Please come to GWS Mason. I would do a lot of things for that one. That would make me want to buy a Guernsey with the name on it because I know that's an idea that's being tossed around recently. Not to the chagrin of the traditionalists, but in this one, I guess I'm going to roll with the Lions, even though I really, just solely for the fact that they got Mason Cox in the lineup, that kind of makes you a finals contender at any point of the season. I'll go with the majority on this one. But the one that I will not side with the majority, Donnie, is this next game, and that is the Roos and the Western Bulldogs. Call me crazy, but I have to give you at least one of these tips around, and half the time they might come true. But the 5%ers is where I'm riding this round because the Roos are going to knock off the Western Bulldogs. The great play from the Roos against the Swans last round is going to come through again. And if they could barely lose to the Swans and the Swans could beat the Western Bulldogs, we all know AFL math works out 100% of the time. But even without that, I think North Melbourne is a very underrated team. The Western Bulldogs are on a pretty poor skid at the moment. And just going from the play that we saw from either team last round, I think the momentum's with North. And so, for a underdog, talk about value bet right here too. The Western Doggies are the favorite at $1.14. You can get in on the North Melbourne Roos for $5.50. That's where I'm going.
Oh man, to be completely honest with you, this was one I thought about going with you on this one. I seriously did. Like I looked at it and I went, Western Bulldogs has not been playing well. North, I think, but I'm interested to see how this one goes. I'm gonna tip the Western Bulldogs in this one. But this is kind of like my Gold Coast Carlton game. This is the one I see that I'm like, I'm going to keep an eye on this one because this one could be quite a fascinating matchup because if North can put a little bit of fear into the Western Bulldogs, can it change? The biggest matchup I think is Timmy English handle the two-headed monster that is Goldstein and Jiri in the ruck battle? Because both of those two had incredible games against Sydney. Is Tim English a little bit better than what a first game Peter Laddams is with Sydney? Maybe. We'll have to see. I'm going to go Western, but I think this is an incredibly closer game than I think a lot of people are expecting.
Sorry, Don, you're going to have to put $1 in the cuss jar because you said the word Western. That was not followed by the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs.
Unbelievable. Straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Do not collect.
And you're going to be the Oh, I love it. The next one, we got your Sydney Swans heading on over to the Optus grounds to take on the West Coast Eagles. We got 78% riding with the Swans. I will take them, but this has the chances to be a lot closer of a game than the percentages might, and even the odds might show as well.
I'm completely with you in this, especially when it sounds like they could be getting most of their starting midfield back all of this round. This is going to be a tight contest. I'm going to go Sydney on this one. I'm only going to go Sydney on this one just because there are still enough kind of makeshift lower list players on the West Coast Eagles that I think Sydney's got an advantage in a few places. The midfield will be an interesting battle. Nick Nat is out, so they don't have that dynamic ruck to get them kind of going forward. So I'm wondering if this is a good game for Peter Laddams. He's going to go up against a younger ruck who I think he might have a better advantage with, which I think might even out the contest in the center because there may be more experience on the West Coast Eagles, but I think there's more speed on the Sydney Swans, and I think that might be the difference in the midfield battle. The biggest question will be defensively for Sydney is how do they handle the twin towers that is Darling and Kennedy. We'll have to see how that goes. But then it's like, I don't know if West Coast can handle some of the fact that Isaac Heaney's playing really, really well. Will Hayward's still playing really, really well. I think Logan McDonald, the Western Australian boy, will come in for Buddy Franklin, giving them a big tall that can kick goals. He's got some speed to him. So I'm going to tip Sydney in this one, but I agree this one is close. This one is unfortunately, Sydney. I think Sydney Swan fans, a lot like the North Melbourne game, this is going to be one that's going to come down late to the fourth quarter. I think Sydney just pips this one by a little, maybe about 2 goals max.
Oh yeah, I am nervous if a Swans fan. But taking us to the next game is actually one of these games that I highlighted as a team with kind of one of the bigger question marks around them and maybe a lot of the pressure to perform come round 5, and that is the St. Kilda Saints. Right now they're sitting cozy in the top 4. You know, they're riding 3 straight wins, but they're going up against a Gold Coast Suns team that just knocked off Carlton. And this Suns team is one that I'm not sure if there's anyone out there compared to us. At the least, I haven't heard them, so I can say this without being ignorant. I have yet to see someone be as high on the Gold Coast Suns consistently as I am, as you are, as we are on the show. And Gold Coast, they proved us a little bit right last round when they took out Carlton. Now, this is a risky game for St. Kilda. I'm not sure if I like the betting odds on this one, with St. Kilda being more than 2 times favorite to win this. I'm going to go with them, but a Gold Coast Suns win here would be the least surprising thing.
This is another one, just a lot like the North Melbourne Western Bulldogs game, where I sat there and I clicked on the Gold Coast Suns when I first started at HIP. I clicked on it. I'm like, yep. Witz is there. Ryder's not playing. Suns get a big win over Carlton. St. Kilda coming off a relatively easy game against Hawthorn. People are starting to jump on the Saints bandwagon, a lot like Carlton. Like, there's a lot of similarities of kind of Carlton. Like, St. Kilda fans are starting to get more confident. They're starting to kind of come out of the woodwork a little bit more. And again, it's like the Suns are that
maybe not be ashamed to be a Saints fan.
Everybody's kind of disrespecting the Suns. I think the Suns are a much better team than many people give them credit for. I'm gonna tip the Saints in this one. A lot like Carlton. I tipped Carlton, but said there's possibility. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna tip St. Kilda, but it will not surprise me if Gold Coast wins this game, just because you never know. Gold Coast has become kind of that bogey team for some of these teams. So a tip St. Kilda, but I think Gold Coast is kind of make this a game.
Yeah, I'm 100% double dipping here. If St. Kilda wins, I win. If Gold Coast wins, I still win on the moral ground, not necessarily tipping ground. So I'll take that when I can. The next one, we got the Richmond Tigers going on over to the Adelaide Oval to take on the Crows. The Tigers coming off of a huge win, but also Adelaide, even though they might not necessarily got the result they wanted, they played a really tight game against a game Essendon team. This is a big one right here. We saw the instant aid that Tex Walker brought to the footy for Adelaide, but Richmond really showed out against the Doggies, so I'm just going to have to ride with them on this one.
I'm with you. I'm going to go Richmond. I think Adelaide is still a young team. I think they're still going to have some growing pains. I think this potentially could be another one of those growing pain games where, yes, they're at home. Yes, you'd think they'd play better, but this is a Richmond side that they're very good on their day. The question
Richmond's
is,
really
are they
good
all?
and not dying. It's just not going away ever.
But then again, though, you could say the Western Bulldogs. There's still questions over them. Like I said, if Richmond is on, they can beat anybody. If they're off, just the littlest bit, they're beatable, and that's what I think is kind of always the caveat that's always kind of fun with this Richmond Tigers team. So I'm going to tip the Tigers in this one, but again, it's a young Crows team. They're being labeled as the underdog, and you never know. At home, sometimes they can find a way to pull one out. So, but I'm going to tip Richmond in this one.
Love it. And then that one is going to take us to the game that I am not looking forward to in the slightest. I'm just hoping that the Giants stay within 100 on this one. 99% of tippers are taking Melbourne over the Giants, and I don't blame them because I am one of them. And if you're one of the 1% that's either rooting for the Giants or if you're just trying to bank on a huge upset, more power to you. Even as a fan, this is going to be the first time this season that I am tipping against GWS.
I have Melbourne, but I think GWS is going. I think they're going to push them. I don't think this is going to be as simple as some people think it is.
Thanks for the hope.
But I think they'll push them. But I think Melbourne will still win this by at least 2 or 3 goals, but I think GWS pushes them a little bit more than some people think.
Okay, I'm okay with that one. I just want a good game. Next off, for someone, probably a fan base that just wants a good game, let's talk about Port Adelaide as they're taking on the Carlton Blues this round. And even with the possible addition of a Lear, I'm still not sold on them. I like Carlton better, and I like Carlton at home at the MCG as well.
I'm gonna go Carlton again at the MCG. Whether Lear is 100% is the $9 million question. And then there's people that are like, well, Paddy Cripps is out. How is Carlton? Well, Paddy Cripps is out, but Ollie Wines, unfortunately, with his heart issue that he had, is also out. So I think that's an even loss for both teams.
Which is such a shame. I really hope he recovers soon. The game misses him.
It's one of those. I hope he recovers quickly, but I don't like some of the talk on certain social media products about why it was.
We know what you're talking about. Yeah,
we won't go there. But it was very ill informed, especially once the doctors actually came out.
You probably know what we're talking about anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, doctors came out and said that this particular situation with the heart is very common in high performance athletes. So there you go, people that think that ridiculous thought process. There you go, you've just been debunked. Boom, you're done. Okay, Carlton wins I think Carlton wins this one. But the biggest question I have is, does Mark Pitnet play? If Mark Pitnet does not play, then Port Adelaide has a really good chance of winning this game, because you could tell if Scotty Lysette is healthy and playing, he can have a dominant game like Jared Witts, and that's going to really hurt Carlton. I'm going to tip Carlton, but I really wish I knew if Pitnet was playing, because if Pitnet's playing, I'm much more confident in this Carlton pick. If he's not, I'm a little frightened on this one, because then I think Carlton is ripe for the picking for a Port team that, even though they can't score, Carlton, they're going to get much more of the footy if Carlton doesn't have Pitnet rucking for them.
Now, this next one, I think this was the hardest game for me to tip out of anyone this round, and the odds definitely show it because Frio is coming to this game only as a 4-cent underdog. We got 60% of tipsters going with the Essendon Dons. I am rolling with Essendon. I am not confident in that pick. I'm not really confident if I picked Frio either. Are you in the same boat?
Honest to God, when I first tipped this, I tipped Essendon, and then I thought about it for a little bit, and I go, well, Essendon's a team that has got significant injuries in certain right spots.
Mm-hmm.
Their ruck position is okay,
week, right?
but yep. And then, but with Frio, it's like a young team, very good defensively, which I think might negate Essendon. A really good ruck that I think is going to have a field day. So I flipped this one. Originally, I started off as Essendon. I tipped Fremantle in this one. I know the jinx on Western Australian teams when they leave the confines of Western Australia, they don't play as well. But I like the grittiness of this Fremantle team. They've played tough this year. They got a win at Adelaide, which I think is massive for their confidence on the road. I'm going to tip Frio in what some people would say an upset, but I don't really consider this an upset. I think this is a really, really even team because you've got a team that can score but doesn't play great defense, and you got a team that plays great defense but doesn't score well. So it's like, which pill do you want to take? The great offense but not good defense, or the good defense but not great offense? So I'm going to tip the great defense to stomp the great offense and to maybe have enough offense to be able to score on a lackluster defense. So I'm going to tip Frio on this one.
It's still a heck of a tough one there. Bit of an easier one, but maybe not as easy as people might think, is Geelong and Hawthorn, because if Geelong keeps on playing that the way they have this year, especially the way they looked against Brisbane, they're pretty much a shoo-in to win this game. But Hawthorn is always it's a Gold Coast-esque team where they're going to be a thorn in your side, but also we not necessarily sure what kind of team you're going to get with them. I'm going with the Geelong Cats, but a close game isn't out of the picture.
I think the Cats and the Hawks play close games all the time. I mean, all the time. So I'm really with you on that one. I think the Cats win this one, but I think this is a humdinger. This one comes down late. I think the Cats' ability to move the footy will be interesting to see how it goes against a young, quick, rebounding halfback line. How do they attack that? Does Tom Stewart come back in the game? And how does this young back line handle Hawkins and Cameron? Because if those two get loose, it's going to be a long, long day in defense. If they can shut them down a little bit, they're really in this game. So I'm really intrigued to see how this goes. Cats, I think, win this. But I think this is one that comes down late in the game, which I cannot wait for a Monday early morning game.
Oh my gosh, we're really going to get that, aren't we? Oh, the perks of being an American Aussie footy fan. Oh boy, it's what we do. It's what we do for you guys as well. So that's why you should go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet.